Got an interesting gun to take a look at here. This is a Jennings Jr. It's a 22 caliber single shot bolt action rifle made by Brico in California. Brico, if you're not familiar with them, is one of the Ring of Fire Saturday Night Special manufacturers, and this firearm is very collectible even though it's fairly inexpensive, and I thought I'd kind of go through why that is. So we start out with 1968 Gun Control Act, which inadvertently created Raven Firearms, which was a company that made this small 25 ACP 6-shot pistol to fill the demand that was created when the 1968 Gun Control Act stopped the importation of little pistols like this. This was made by George Jennings, and that spawned a whole series of other manufacturers that were in the Los Angeles area, which were later given the name Ring of Fire, and a whole other video about that. But this was the original one. His son, Bruce Jennings, created a company called Jennings Firearms, and they made us this scaled down version of his dad's pistol. This one is in .22 long rifle, and that's where our story sort of starts here. So this again is a Jennings Jr., and you can see the script of the logo there, Jennings Jr., and that you'll see comes from Jennings Firearms. Now Bruce Jennings started Jennings Firearms in '74 or something, back in the 70s. Eventually though his company changed, and it was eventually brought to a company called Brico, and you'll see it's a Jennings, same pistol, a little bit modernized, and now it's called a Jennings by Brico. And Brico is a company named after his son Brian, I think. And see, it's a Jennings J22, a 22 caliber pistol, but now it's being made by Brico. It happens to be made in Irvine, California, but it's still being made under the name Jennings Firearms, and we go into that in other videos. But you can see how the Jennings part of the rifle gets its name. Eventually Jennings became Brico alone. When they dropped the Jennings part, it was still a J22, but now the company name was Brico. And it's interesting because at that point the people that gave the name Ring of Fire also encouraged people that didn't like the lack of firearms restrictions in this country. In other words, because there was the right to own firearms and they were frustrated by that, they were not having luck attacking on a legal front. The person who created the name Ring of Fire, the Dr. Winnemute, decided to encourage people to sue the manufacturers, and that's important because when Jennings Firearms became Brico, they were sued by a family of a kid who was shot by his babysitter. They sued the manufacturer Brico for something like $23 million. Again, we go into that in other videos. But they were successful, and Brico went out of business. And again, that's where this rifle comes into play, because this was one of the very last products that Brico was able to make under the name Brico before they were sued out of existence in that lawsuit. You see this was made in Costa Mesa, and here we see the Brico again made in Costa Mesa. So this pistol was made at the same time as this one. Now the company went out of business, but the factory and the manufacturing materials and all the parts and everything still existed. They were bought by one of the people who worked at the factory, and it was renamed to Jimenez Arms, and you see very much the same pistol, still made in Costa Mesa. Eventually, again, we go into it in other videos, they were again attacked by that same set of people that sued Brico out of existence, and they eventually moved to Nevada, and right now they're in Las Vegas. So if you were to buy a Jimenez JA22, not a J22 anymore, but a JA22, you'd be buying the same lineage, and this little bolt-action rifle kind of was a side branch, a weird cousin from all these little pistols. So it's a pretty interesting little rifle in the fact that it's very much like a Cricket or a little Henry mini bolt. It's actually very well made for a small youth rifle. That's only about, well, I haven't measured, it's not very long overall, 16-17 inch barrel, single shot bolt action. And it's a great gun to train someone with, train a child, or I like to use them as camping guns because they're a heck of a lot of fun. As a bolt action, they'll cycle anything, even the no powder like novelty rounds, so you can have a lot of fun at a campground just shooting cans and stuff with these. But this is a nice little rifle that fits into history in many ways, at least into firearms history here in the U.S. in many ways, and hopefully that gives people an idea of, you know, collecting inexpensive firearms. This one cost well under $100. It was a very inexpensive rifle to get, something to look for at gun shows, and there are collectors out there. If you ever happen to see one of these, again, it's called the Jennings Jr., made by Brico in Costa Mesa, California. If you ever happen to see one of these, please get in contact with us. I know lots of collectors who'd be interested in one of these. But again, not every firearm is a weapon. Not every firearm that might have been built as a weapon remains a weapon. Keep that in mind when people try to demonize firearms and collecting. Well, I hope you found this little bit of firearms history interesting. As always, thanks for watching. By the way, 2, 4, 6, 7 firearms. I could only own 3 more firearms if I lived in New York. Be aware that the fight's not over.
The guys and gals of GunWebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching GunWebsites.com.